Hey guys, great to be back with you guys. I got a fun story today. A little controversial, but it's going to be good, and I think you guys are going to get a lot from this. Congratulations, El Salvador. It's been a year. I've researched quite a few channels, and some people have done some uh, really slant pieces, in my opinion, that have just been wow. Like, I don't watch mainstream media, I don't watch television at all. And I hear about it from different avenues and whatnot, but that's not what I form my opinions upon my investments or my belief about the future or the wellness of mankind is not what I learned from the television. I threw that thing out a decade ago, and I would never go back. It just has significantly changed my life. However, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos thinking, wow, this is going to be cool. There's going to be all these great stories, like I've researched, about El Salvador and their successes, and I couldn't find a single positive note. And I thought, what? Like, why aren't they talking about this, or that? I mean, what are they talking about? And I should have known, right? Look, you haven't put this together by now. The banks don't want Bitcoin. They don't want it to succeed. They don't want that network to evolve. And anyway, I wish it was different, but that's pretty evident by now. And seeing it from my point of view, where I did all this research about. My son and I did a video a year ago. I can't believe it's been a year I've been doing these videos. You'd think I'd be better at this than I am, but yeah, that's what you get, guys. Sorry. I'm getting slightly better each video. It was, I think, our most well-liked video. And I should probably put a link down below. I was so impressed with the people of El Salvador and the people who commented about our passion and our love for people and our desire for them to succeed. All people. I don't care that you're in El Salvador or down the street. I want everybody to thrive. So I'm going to go over a few things that they forgot to mention in the mainstream media, and one of them is just it's amazing to me. Um, in this country's 200-year history, they've never undertaken anything like this before. This took courage. This took passion and understanding of man's future. Senor Bukele is revolutionized a country that, by all modern standards, is behind in the times. How did anybody think that was going to happen overnight? It's just absurd to me. They're judging it on, it dawns on me, the very first computer I had, those of you probably nobody watching this can even remember these computers, but a Commodore 64. That's right. It had 64 megabytes. I barely got everybody's names and phone numbers in that computer before it was full. Memory done. Over. You've exceeded your limits. Did I quit buying computers? Did we just give up? Did we just, no, we didn't do any of that. We pushed forward. Have they had a lot of problems? Yeah. Did you think they were just think about it. How long do you think it took El Salvador to adopt the car? When the car came along. How long do you think it took? 12 months for them to go, all of them just to get off their horses and get into a car? Do you know how absurd this is? I mean, it's just crazy that people can't, the mainstream media just pulls this stuff off, and I just laugh at them. I'm like, oh, okay. I got a couple of more analogies as we go, but anyway, let's talk about what did happen well. They added 50 billion GDP. Gross domestic product, 50 billion. I'm just going to give you a couple of quick numbers. They have 6 million residents, people of so you divide, right? 6 million into 50 billion, and you have $8,300 for every man, woman, and child built in revenue to their nation. It will be spent in schools and better streets and sewer and all the rest of it. It's all coming to their infrastructure. They are a positive GDP. Do you know how many countries aren't in positive GDP in the last year? All of them. Think about that. China, okay, China's got a positive GDP. You know what their GDP was? Over 10% increase. Anyone that knows anything about those numbers is massive for a country like that size. Massive. For instance, the United States is down 1.6%, and we're leaning on 2% right now. By the end of the fourth quarter, it'll be 2% down. They beat us by 12%. Nobody's doing that in the world right now. No one. Every channel, every news, everything you listen to is what's going wrong in countries. Their GDP is screaming. Okay. Take a breath, Al. This is going to go well. I'm so proud of this country and what they've done, and I'm so happy for them. And there's so many great things. Their tourism is up 82%. They're number 2 in increase of tourism year over year. Just stop and think about anybody knew anybody who ever wanted to go to El Salvador unless you had a surfboard. Never. This thing is thriving. Its tourism is going crazy. And you say to yourself, how does that help the little person? Tourism is the best thing you can do for any country as far as helping from the bottom up. They're the people buying the food at the restaurants and the cocktails and making the beds and doing all the hard work that the citizens of El Salvador, that's all they've asked for is opportunity. And they have opportunity now. I heard a guy talking about the bond the other day. I've done a couple of videos on this channel about the volcano bond. Its nickname, it's BB1. It hasn't launched. We were hoping it would launch a year ago. It hasn't launched yet. They're closer than ever. It's coming. But I heard this guy bagging on it, and I was so upset. I was like, what's the matter with you, man? He was making it out to sound like it was some sort of only the elites are going to get citizenship and for their thousands of dollars of buying bonds, as if he knew anything about bonds. He didn't know anything. Like, only rich people buy bonds. Maybe, but do you know that you can buy a bond in El Salvador for $100? Do you know how many bonds on the face of the planet you can buy for $100? We're back with that zero number again. So they're making it obtainable. Now, is the average person who lives in the streets of El Salvador going to be able to afford a bond? Probably not. No. But middle class, I would think. That leads me back to my other number. Their annual income is $3,200 a year, average annual income. Their GDP was over 4 times that, per man, woman, and child. You think they're going to catch up quick? Do you see how fast that can change lives? Let's remember, our GDP is going down annually for 3 years now in the United States. I don't know where you're watching this. Think about that. It's costing the average citizen more money in gross domestic product than we're making, than we're selling. That's a minus factor, people, and that's not where you want to be. That means your standard of living is going down against global markets. Anyway, this isn't You want to hear the most proud thing that I've heard any president say, and probably maybe ever? Senor Bukele, my hat is off to you, sir. This was magical what he did just last week. I listened to parts of it. Um, it was tough to get anything from the media in the Western world positive because they cut up the negative parts of his speech. Okay. But you know what, this man, he got up in front of the UN. He flew, by the way, this was last week. He went to New York and he addressed the UN. And of all the things he said, the one thing that made the most sense to me and stuck out, it was brilliant. I've never heard a leader say this before. He basically said this: within 5 years, El Salvador will have paid the IMF back. International Monetary Fund. Okay? So all the poor leadership that they've had for 100 years in that country, especially the last 20 years when they've been corrupted by the US dollar, which has helped them in a lot of ways. I shouldn't just put it as a negative. It has stabilized their they would have like Argentina, you know, inflation had they not hung with the dollar. The problem with a lot of people don't understand about the dollar is that when you tie yourself to the dollar like they did, when all the money gets distributed, such as quantitative easing, that easing only happens in the US. That is a taxation, or inflation is taxation, if you've seen my other shows, to the people of El Salvador because they didn't get the handout of those US dollars. Only the people in the US did. Okay? Only the businesses in the US did. As we've talked about, only 20% of all the bailout money in the last 2 or 3 years has gone to the citizens. The other 80% went to industry. Okay, he had the nerve, the backbone, the leadership that personally I admire, okay, to tell the IMF, we no longer need your help. We don't want your help. Your help has diminished the lives of my citizens for decades, hundreds of years, to be honest. I think he was being polite. They've suppressed the people of the great country of El Salvador long enough. He's going to take them outside of this debt, these shackles that the people of El Salvador have had to endure like the rest of the people in the world. And isn't it odd that that's mostly happens in third world countries or Central American countries or African countries where they can't be banked? Odd that, really, isn't it? It's not. Shouldn't be. The IMF controls people through banking loans, and they control the politicians, and they corrupt the politicians, and the politicians forget where they came from, and they sell their soul, if you will, to the bank for the money. And, well, corruption runs rampant in all countries, not just third world. Do you know how amazing it is to have a leader stand before the United Nations and tell them that we no longer want your help? Do you know that that is thinking outside of the box on a level that doesn't occur anymore? We used to have good, strong government and good, strong leaders in government. They've all succumbed to this corrupted inner loop that they're all in, and they don't listen to their people and their patrons any longer. And it's so blatantly obvious to all of us, but it's hard for us because we're busy and we're doing our own lives. Really didn't want to go down that road, but I'm so proud of you, Senor Bukele. Amazing job. You've done so well. Their economy is growing so fast. The tourism is up. The GDP is up. The people are happy. I've talked to a few people firsthand who have visited there. I know a person living there now. I don't get to talk to her personally, but I wish I could. But I've heard her do interviews, and she loves it there. And the people are they're all growing and they're prospering. Are there going to be struggles? Of course. How long did it take the internet to be adopted? That's another. A lot of these people are saying, "Oh, well, I had a friend text me this, and I love the guy, amazing man, and I don't mean to bag on him, but he's probably gonna watch this video and remember the text. He sent me a text saying, "Oh, well, all the vendors don't like Bitcoin." Remember though, that was probably 6 months ago. That's before the Lightning Network has really excelled inside the country, and it's a whole lot easier than it used to be. It's growing. He says, "Yeah, the vendors don't really like it, and this and that." And I texted him back. I was like, "Yeah, well, adoption takes a long time." And then a couple of days went by, and I happened to be doing my own thing, and then it dawned on me, right? Street vendors, right? Let's just talk about that. So he got the idea from, I believe it was a 60 Minutes article done on, don't quote me, but they did one on El Salvador. I believe. I don't watch that channel, but I'm aware of 60 Minutes, but I don't watch it. And they were saying that the vendors are struggling using the wallets and the rest of it on their phones, and a lot of people don't have phones. And it dawned on me. I started laughing. I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's part of the adoption problem. That only like 7% of the country has actually adopted the use of Bitcoin for payment system." I get that. 7% 1 year, I would say that's a home run. But they were calling that a negative. 93% of the people don't like this. It dawned on me, I think I've said that already, that you can't buy a taco off a vendor truck in Silicon Valley with Bitcoin. Think about that. I'm talking Silicon Valley, walking up with your own cell phone, where they create all the technology, where all the technology is coming out of. You go to a taco or a burger truck in Silicon Valley, you're paying cash, my friend. Period. Those vendors may never evolve to using Bitcoin on a transaction like that. Think about that for a minute. Isn't that odd that they didn't bring anything up like that? Well, people prefer cash all around the world, of course. Wasn't in the article. Wasn't presented to people that way. Because they have an agenda against it. All you have to do, I did this, all you have to do is look up 1 year anniversary of El Salvador. Look at the top 20, 50 even. Every one of them had a negative slant. When you see that, you're over the target. The bomber pilots will tell you, well, when they start shooting at you, you're over top of the target. When the slant is all one direction on a subject, you're over the target. They're making change in that country, and it's the future. And I'm so proud of them, and I'm so happy. And did I really think it would last a year? I was hoping so. Did I think it would be as successful as it's been? Just some of the numbers there's 4 or 5 other things I have on here. The annual income of the people is up 10%. The annual income of GDP was 10%. Think about that. 10% is huge. I'm just proud that after a year that they're still going forward with this, and it hasn't been crushed or squashed by the IMF or other people, or the banking elites, if you will, who want to keep the dollar system the way they are. Why do they want to keep the dollar system the way it is? Because they have the printing machine. We've gone over that. Why would you give the printing machine up if you didn't have to? You just wouldn't. Okay. So Bitcoin's going to put a dent in that. I don't want to get too deep into this subject, but I really don't think Bitcoin is the transactional difference. I think it's more of an asset. I think it's something you're going to hold. I think you're going to trade other tokens such as like Litecoin or Digibyte. Uh, I do believe it will be decentralized tokens. I got a video coming out very soon about that. That's going to be really fun. I've been doing a lot of homework on what the angle that I have. It's very international, and it's really fitting to our times, and I'm looking forward to doing it for you guys. Okay, El Salvador, keep doing what you're doing. We love what's happening. I know you're not getting a lot of love out there, but you are with the Bitcoin and the crypto world because you are crushing it. I'll put your country against any other country in the last year as far as doing what's best for its people. That's all people have ever asked for in this whole world, is a government that wants to do the best for the people. I think you have the right leadership. I hope. I hope for all of man that we can learn from what's happening there and how it can change all of our lives, and through honest money and through honest politicians who no longer need the big banking system corrupting them and controlling them. It's a step. They have many steps to go. It's a long journey. Remember, you don't go from a horse to a buggy or a buggy to a car overnight. It's going to be a while, El Salvador, but you're doing it. I'm going to do another one on this just about the people of El Salvador, and that one's coming up soon. This was kind of more about how the media looked at the year in review, and we love you guys, and I love all people out there watching this video. Stay with it, guys. We got more coming your way. And with that,